Hey folks, welcome to the stream. We are going to jump back into our code pipeline walkthrough using CloudFormation from last week. I blew everything up because last week we had a couple little, I'm trying to itch my ear through my headphones, that doesn't work very well. We had a couple odd little things at the beginning of the stream around not setting up CodeCommit, but getting our Iam user set up and getting logged in as that Iam user to be able to get access to the stream itself, or not the stream, sorry, the repo. So I thought just blow everything up and we'll start it again. Since we've got it all templated anyways, we should be able to deploy it, and we'll start by trying to find the error. I'm sure it's something just really stupid, right? An error in the code, or we overlooked something. We'll flip back and see if we can figure it out. And Payman, welcome. Thanks for spending your Tuesday. You would think I would know it's Tuesday, right? Since we do this on Tuesdays. Thanks for spending your Tuesday night with me. All right, so I was just looking at the documentation here, trying to get myself a little prepared so that maybe we could avoid the issue that we had last time. I didn't actually make it very far, got distracted with some other things and kind of scrambled to get the stream going. So this is where we are. What we'll do, as always, you can see that I tried to run this just before the stream. I ran it about 12 minutes ago, and I had left a resource in place. So when I ran this, it gave me an error, and I cleaned that error up manually, and we'll just redeploy this. And fingers crossed, this should recreate our repo. Remember, we had the CodeDeploy set up a little bit, and also set up our IAM resources. Not all of them. I really think we've just missed something in IAM in the setup. So we're going to go back and have another look at that, okay? Payman, are you done with all the snow? I know I am. It was a nice day today, so I'm hoping that the trend continues and some of it disappears over the next week. All right, so here we go. We've got a couple templates ready to go. If you recall, if we look at the change set for this, we're creating an IAM group. Okay. And this is where I think we've missed something. Right? We've got our instance profile. We're going to assign that instance profile to an EC2 instance that will make part of our auto-scaling group later on. We've got our own managed policy here that we're going to use, and then the two roles. Okay, one is for the role that gets associated to an EC2 instance through the instance profile. The other role, I can't remember which one, is the role that we're going to use for, I think it's CodeCommit, if I recall. We'll see this when it runs. Okay, so this is step one. We'll get that going. Okay. Our other template here is the actual repository. I don't think, if I recall, let's have a quick look. There's no requirements on this for anything, so we'll just execute that as well. Okay. Payman, you were done after Christmas, eh? I didn't mind it for a while. I think we're going to get all of our snow in the last 2 weeks of February. That's at least what I'm hoping. We'll see how that goes. All right, so our repo's back up and running. So we can go over to, do I have it in the list anymore? Yeah, I'm looking right at it. There's CodeCommit. Right, and here's the repo. And this is kind of where we got sidetracked last week, and I went back and we did the CodeDeploy instead. Okay, so I think we'll try to figure out what the heck I did wrong here. Okay. Yeah, we only get snow at Christmas. That would be okay. That would be okay. So really not a whole lot to look at in here. We're gonna set up HTTP access in a bit here. Wrong place. We go here. Taking so long here. Okay, this must be getting close to being done. Okay. And let's have a look at this template too. I think we can deploy, oops, we can deploy this one as well. Let's have a look. So it creates our CodeDeploy application and it creates our CodeDeploy group. If we look at the template itself, what I'm looking for, oh, it does require the stack to be deployed. So this is a good example because we've got the, I think we defined a role in here somewhere. Oh, sorry, right at the very bottom, right? Import a value from the IAM stack called deploy ARN. So we do need that IAM stack to finish first. Let's give it a little longer. I always start getting nervous when it takes a little while. You'd think that this would be pretty quick. I haven't changed anything since last week, so I'm hoping that that means everything is good. Patience, right? Patience. Oh, there we go. Instance profile's done. Everything's done. And now we can go ahead and deploy at least this, right? The beginning of our CodeDeploy configuration. And then, like last week, I think we'll go back now and we'll have a look at that Iam user. And actually, we'll have to recreate the user and see if we can make an HTTP connection to the repo that we just created. Okay. We'll let this finish. Okay, that's quick. Let's go over and have a look at IAM just to review what we created. We have a single group, okay? No users in this group right now, but we did make whoever is a member of this group a power user in CodeCommit. And if you recall, I did mention that we're cheating here a little bit. We're not really taking the time to build a proper least privilege policy and associating with the group. I can't stress enough, like if we were doing this for a customer, we would, I always say that managed policies from AWS are fantastic starting points, but they might not necessarily be exactly what you're after. Okay, so we're cheating here a little bit. If we saw this in a customer's environment, what we would generally do is use the Access Advisor. And obviously there's nothing here right now, but over time the Access Advisor would give you a good picture of what actions and what services are actually being used by the members of, in this case, our deployment group here, okay, or sorry, our development group. And then you could use that to tighten everything up. Okay. Hey, Kevin, welcome, sir. Good to see you. Good chat going on in Discord. It's a tough decision to make there, right? Given that type of advice for secondary school and making those decisions. Always interesting to get different perspectives on it. So we've got this set up. Last week we created the user manually. Okay. Yeah, we could probably do that payment. Yeah, absolutely. I don't see why not. Okay. With the giant asterisks of, use at your own risk kind of thing, because we're obviously just standing these up and then blowing them up after. But yeah, you can, I'll see what I can do. Okay. All right. So what were we going to do? We're going to create an Iam user. Okay. Development. I'm going to leave these two things open. There we go. And I just wanted to have a look at this and see, is it worth it to do this or not? I think, you know what? Let's create the user programmatically. And again, it's more just to show you what's possible here. Would I create users programmatically? Probably not, because I would probably, for any real deployment, I'd probably try to do most of this work inside of something like Amazon SSO. But again, because we're really just exploring templates here, this is gonna, you know, tell you what you can do. So let's have a look at this and get it set up. The most important part is going to be the login profile, because I want to assign login permissions to this user that will let them log into the console. More for demo, and we can make sure that everything works, but also being able to get access to the repo that we've created. Okay. So we've got a group that we want to assign that user to. Let's get this up here and have a look. This is our managed policy for our demo. And this, remember, last week, allows access to the CodeDeploy repo in the region where we're running our template. And in this case, this region is, or this template is being run in the Canadian region, so CA Central 1. Okay. This is a role that gets assigned to, or allows the EC2 service to assume it. Okay. And we're assigning, does anybody remember what Amazon SSM managed instance core is for? And then we've got our custom managed policy up here. Okay. Anybody remember what that's for? You didn't think you're going to come to Twitch and be spot quizzed on something, right, from last week? While I'm letting you think about that, somebody can Google it really quickly. Remember that an instance profile is how we assign a role to an EC2 instance, so that's what this is. This is the role that we're going to use for CodeDeploy. This is going to allow CodeDeploy to get this access to this managed policy. Okay, and this is an Amazon managed policy. There's our group, so let's create an Iam user now. Okay, so we'll continue to use the same setup. User, whoops, properties, and we know already that we want to assign this user to that group, so we're going to say group 0. Oh, I was going to scroll up and say, where is it? It's right there. And I think it was just groups. Let's go back and have a look. Yeah, groups. So we'll say ref group 0. Okay. Login profile. Creates a password for the specified user. A password allows the user to access AWS services through the management console. Let's have a look at what's in here. See, this is where it's kind of crappy, because we obviously don't want to hard code any of this. Well, what we could do, let's do this. If I could spell, we all know that's a problem. Password is, we'll just give ourselves a test. Oh no, yeah, you got it. Okay, and we'll set up password reset required, and that's just a boolean, so we'll say true. Okay, we're not going to assign any policies directly to the user. Another thing that we always try to do is assign policies through group membership. Okay, so permissions assigned to this user are inherited through the group. Paths allow us to organize, right? We're not going to worry about that. Permissions boundary is more of an advanced topic. Permissions boundaries, there we go, are interesting in the fact that it does allow you to delegate out permissions assignments to your users up to a certain level, a boundary. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. And policies, we could create an inline policy. So, okay, let's go back and answer our test question. Does anybody remember what that is for? What that policy does? I'll give you a second. There's a follow-up question to this too. No? I'm trying to watch. I'm trying a new way to watch chat. I've got it on my iPad down here. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at the chat on my iPad, but I also have it on the streaming PC over here. I'm trying to figure out what I like better. Remember that Amazon SSM Managed Instance Core is the basic or required managed policy that you use to provide access to the Systems Manager Service, SSM. And why we add this on here is because, remember, we're not going to SSH into this machine. Well, when we create these EC2 instances, we won't SSH into them. We're just going to use Session Manager. I find it easier. Okay. What's great about Session Manager is we're going to just use it through the console, but you can also use it through the Amazon CLI. So a pretty slick little way to get access to the machines. Okay, so that's what that is. And I forget what my second question was. Oh yeah, okay, here we go. What's the difference between an inline policy and a managed policy? Ooh, another tough one. Okay, so I think this is all we need here. Oh, let's tag this user. And I'm going to do something like this. That's not going to work, is it? Like that. I'm not sure if we need quotes around it because I have the colon in there or not, but I'm going to put quotes in there. Okay. So I'll answer the first question. Inline policies are embedded directly into the resource. So if you put an inline policy into a user, let's say, it's in that user. Okay. It becomes one with the user. Okay. Same thing with a group, it embeds in the group. And why that's important is it allows you to establish one-to-one relationships, right? A single user has this specific inline policy. The thing is with that is because it's embedded, if you delete the entity that has that inline policy embedded in it, the policy goes with it. It's not independent. Versus a managed policy has its own ARN, Amazon resource name, and that allows us to, basically, we could, in this case, where was it? Here's our profile. That's an example of a customer managed policy, and we associate this, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the, yeah, no, this is it. This profile, we associate it with this role. Okay, if you delete this role, this policy still exists. Okay, so inline means it's embedded directly into the entity. A user or a group is a simple example, whereas a managed policy has its own Amazon resource name and it's separate. It exists independently. Okay, you got it, Kevin. It's reusable. Okay, inline one-to-one, a managed policy one-to-many. Okay. All right, so we've got our user defined here. That user is now a member of a group, and one of the things you'll notice here is we're not going to put a username. Okay. We're going to let, if I recall the documentation, the name of the user to create do not include this. It's not required. Okay. This means that CloudFormation will dynamically generate this name for us. Okay, easy. So we're going to leave it there. And I think that's probably good. Let's have a look at our CI script. We've got the capabilities. Let's just deploy this. All right, we should see the pipeline come to life here. So far, so good. Here's Iam deploying. So if we go over here, We go to CloudFormation. We should see a change set for IAM. There it is. And you can see the action is add. There's our logical ID. And over here is really what we're after. Is it going to replace something? Yes or no, or maybe. In this case, we know it's not because we're adding. So we're good to go. Let's execute it. And while we're waiting, let's go to IAM. There's our user. So crazy username, okay? You can see this setup hasn't been done yet because it's not a member of a group, and unless we just had a rollback occur or I, fat fingered something. It's still working on it, so let's give it a second. Oh, there we go. Okay, so if we go back here and refresh this, there it is. Okay, so this user is a member of this group. So if we look at this, there's this idea of managed policy. You're inheriting the permissions in here from the group membership. There's our group. There's the tags. So why did I put this on here? I think this is a good example. We did this for one customer. They were concerned about, they were using IAM users, not SSO access into their accounts. And what they wanted to make sure was that temporary users, in their case consultants, they didn't have to think about making sure that those accounts were removed. So the policy, or the policy was that a contractor or consultant could only have an account for 14 days. And what we did was every day we looked at this and we calculate when this user was created, and on the 15th day the user gets deleted. Okay. So I just kind of threw that in there because it was top of mind today. So I just wanted to show you tagging here is important. Well, it's important for all resources in AWS. I think it's interesting, particularly for things like automation. Okay. There's our setup. Okay. No keys or anything like that. We're going to come back and look at this. So this means that I should be able to do this. There's our crazy user. Okay, we'll come back to the account ID here in a second. We should be able to grab the temporary password from here, dump that there, and I want to say this is suite shareholder. Let's try it. This is the problem that we had last time. Okay. Payment, yeah, that was through Lambda. Okay, so the Lambda function basically is scheduled. It's a scheduled Lambda function, and it runs every night and does that maintenance work for us. I know I was pushing my luck here. I still don't know what the heck I was doing. It's really funny because before the stream, I had left that CodeCommit user that we created manually last time. I had left that in the account. It's actually why the profile, or sorry, not the profile, the template wouldn't delete. And I was like, oh, since it's still here, I'm going to try to log in. And it did. It let me log in. So I'm not quite sure what's happening here. We're back to the same. Okay, so suite shareholder. Let's just do this. Make sure that this hadn't moved somewhere. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so suite shareholder. We've got our user. And then our temporary password. It's really odd. I'm going to try something else. Let's do this. Let's go over here. Okay. We're going to manage credentials. We'll let it auto-generate. Okay, user must change. Let's just grab this. Your authentic. I wonder if I have spaces or something. No spaces. Oh, look, there's a space. I was really hopeful that's what it was. No space at the front. Let's make sure now. Back over here. I wonder if it hasn't actually... Okay, let's do that. I don't know if this is actually saved, to be honest, like until I click close or not. What if you put in the account number? Well, we could try that. I'm going to try one other thing. Let's take this password again, the temporary one that we put in the script. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Close that. Oh, see what I just did? I didn't have that copied anymore. Let's go like this. Auto-generated. User. Let's change. We'll just copy it. Close it. I don't think payment this will make a difference. Was that pay? Yeah, it was payment. But let's try it anyways. Oh shit, I'm gonna have to change the password again. That is really, really weird. Let's go here. Let's do a little... This is kind of pissing me off now. The problem with this is it's going to be delayed. Okay, let's think through this logically. We're going to leave this here, and we're going to get rid of that filter. We're just going to leave this and see if we can see an error or anything here. Let's have a look at the template again. User, we created a login profile. We put that user in a group. Man, it sure looks right to me. I wonder if we're just missing something. Let's do this. I wonder if we're just missing something here. Let's try. Let's go like this. Okay. I just want to rule out that we've maybe just forgotten something. Okay. Now, since I've made this an administrator, I'm going to get a little more serious about. Before, I really didn't care if you saw the credentials, to be honest. We're going to change these credentials. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing we did last week, so just bear with me a sec. You get the weird mugshot with the screwed up green screen. And it works. So there's a permission that we're missing somewhere. So we're going to figure that out first. Let's do this. I'm just resetting the password for this user. Give me a second. Okay, so we're in. You can see up here, here's our crazy user. Let's have a look then. We're obviously missing a permissions set somewhere. So let's do this. I want to leave that. We can close this. Let's go over here and say we're gonna have a good chuckle here when we find this, because it's gonna be something really silly. It's been so long since I've set a user up like this, it does not jog my memory at all. That's what we saw before. Creating users in the console, creating users through the API. Give user access to the management console. This requires a password. You must also give the user the URL of your account ID. So we did that. Create login profile. Optionally create an access key. Did I give the user cool access? I don't know what that means. Console access. Yeah, I thought, Payment, I thought that's what this did. You know, in our template where we're creating the login profile, I thought that when you created the login profile, it created access to the console. So, you know, let's do this, okay? I guess that's changed now. Add a user, another test user, and we're going to say management console. See, here's where it's creating the login profile. Next. Actually, let me do this. Yeah, we'll auto-generate this password. Okay. I'm going to remove, before we do this actually, I'm going to go back to the group and we're going to remove this. Okay, admin access. And we're going to create a user. Let's just make the name shorter, test user. We're going to give that user access to the management console, which is the login profile. We'll let it generate a password and force us to change it. Permissions, add the member or add the user to a group. We won't worry about tags because this isn't going to last very long. And I will just, from here, copy this password. Okay, close. So now we can go over here and say, sign out. Go back here and it's suite shareholder. And I think I just said test user. Let's double check. Yeah, test-user, and I should have the password. It's got to be something in the permissions. Okay, so let's try this. Iam permissions. Actually, let's do this. Iam actions for Iam. Hang on a second here. Turn that off. All right, so let's see here. I'm looking for an action that has something to do with console login. Change password. These are all creating. Who knew the hardest thing we would do is create an Iam user? So I'll delete policy or delete actions. List. Lots of list actions. Puts. What is it that we're missing here? This is going to be so stupid when we find it. Tags. Untag. So basically adding and removing tags to different things. Managing your access key. Change the password for the specified user. I wonder if, I'm sure Amazon, AWS IAM policy to allow users to manage their own credentials. I've seen an example of this before. Here we go. Get policy, get account, manage your passwords, manage your access keys, manage your signed certs, manage your public keys, manage your Git credentials. See, again, nothing there has anything to do with logging in. Self-managed service specific. That's changing your passwords, password policies. So let's make a few little changes and just see if we can figure this out. Let's add SSH. Those are SSH policies. Let's do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to add it to the group that we defined earlier on. Where was it? Profile role. It was down at the bottom, wasn't it? There we go. Group. Let's dump that there. Okay, so we're going to do one thing at a time so we can figure out what this is. Right, because obviously administrative user isn't the right way to do it. So let's say added AWS managed. Okay, so that will fire the pipeline again. Which I'm gonna leave this open because I want to find a couple other policies here, and we'll go over here. Yeah, so there's our mod. Okay, we'll run that. While that's running, I'm gonna do another search here. That's not gonna be helpful at all, is it? Actually, that's not that bad. I thought it... Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay, so that's done. What we're going to do is we're going to go back here. Users. There's our test user. Now we've got the two policies. And we're just going to keep changing... I'm going to change this password again. Go over here. All right, well, I am at a loss. When all else fails. We don't want to sign into the root user. See here, admin policy. Somebody invariably always mentions virus scanners. Do you notice that? Where was that other link? Ugh. Let's go back over here. Logging. The CloudTrail logs all authenticated IP requests made with credentials to IAM. Also logs non-authenticated requests to blah blah blah. If your users sign in directly to the console, they're directed to either a global or regional sign-in endpoint. The endpoint depends on whether the selected service console supports regions. For example, the main console homepage supports regions. If you sign into you're directed to a regional sign-in such as blah blah blah. The redirection creates a regional CloudTrail entry in the user's region log. Okay, so if we go here, see this? It's redirecting us to US East 1. And we're looking at CloudTrail in Central. So let's go over here. Let's just see if this is throwing an error for us. Maybe we can use trail logs to work backwards and see if we can figure this out. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. Oh, it dumped us back here though. US East. Event history. Okay, this is a little more interesting now because there's our development user. And what I'm looking for is, see this column over here, error code. I just want to see if we notice anything in here. February 23rd, this is 20 minutes ago. Look at this right here, sign in. There's no error code. That was our temp user. Oh, this is probably after we made that user the administrator. So let's do it this way instead. Let's grab this and do username. We can just search for that user. There is not a lot, is there? We spread this out. No, nothing. Console login failure. Wow, I'm really stuck on this one. Let's leave that user there for a bit. So if we get this again, all this to be able to use, well, I don't want to make it seem like it's like a problem because we don't have CodeCommit. It's not CodeCommit's problem, it's something that exists between the keyboard and the chair, right, is what they say. Nothing. Let's just show this again to something new. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna break my rule, and at this point, I've kind of, to be frank, had enough. So we're gonna do this. And then I will figure this out for next week because it's just pissing me off now. All right. Oh, man. All right. User. Copy the username. I've totally screwed the password up again. Sweet shareholder. There we go. We'll do the same thing here. Hey, Pyro, what's going on? We are like banging our heads against the desk here why this simple process of logging in is not working. We're just going to give it a second. We're going to do some deep breathing, you know, listen to some calming music, give IAM a second to figure out why it should work and it's not my fault. And we'll hit sign in. Son of a bitch. Sweet shareholder. Okay, now I'm really at a loss, folks. I have no. We've made this user an admin user now. Yeah, Johnny, you joined at the perfect time, man. Normally we're doing way more interesting / fun stuff than this, but for whatever reason, this is just kicking my ass today. This worked before when we made it an admin, right? No space at the end, no space at the beginning. I'm pretty sure I can cut and paste. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to finish the other work that we started last week. We're going to just forget this IAM user, and we are going to finish up the Ec2 deployments. Oh, you're watching chess. It was probably more exciting than this, Johnny. Probably more exciting than this. We're going to get the EC2 instance that we set up last week. We're going to get that running and put it in the deployment group. Okay. And then we can test that out, make sure that all works. And we'll come back and we'll have another look at this IAM user near the end of the stream. Okay. I don't know what the hell is going on here. Maybe there's some caching or something like that. I don't know. Okay, so let's go have a look at our deployment group. So we've got our application, right? So our Apache application that we looked at last week. And then we've got our, oops, sorry, meant to click here. And we've got our deployment group. And remember last week we talked about this. Deployment groups are tag-based. We created a tag-based deployment group for this last week, but you can also use auto-scaling groups. The way that the stream is going, I think what we'll do is we'll probably create an EC2 instance with a tag first rather than an auto-scaling group, because it's like it's the very first time I've used AWS and I can't seem to figure out how to log in. So if that's any indication of how the auto-scaling group would go, it's probably safer if we just stick with an EC2 instance. And if you recall, we go back here and we look at machine images. We've got the demo pipeline AMI that we created last week. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, for now, let's just call this, we'll just call this EC2 YAML for now, okay? And we'll create, if we can get this to work, we'll create an auto-scaling one as well, and then we can maybe come up with a couple different deployment groups, okay? Placeholder as usual, and we'll just call this instance 0. Okay. And actually, just so that we get to the habit of it, we'll create some mappings as well. So let's actually start with the map file first. Or sorry, the map definition, and I always have to look it up. Okay, so mappings is a section, this is our logical name, and then we simply have our key value pairs. So we're gonna call this, I don't know, demo map. And this is really what we wanna do. We wanna have the region. We're not gonna use different architectures, and then the AMI that we created. So we want to do something like this. So CA Central 1. I'm just trying to find an example of it here. Yeah, I guess really this is the easiest way to do it. And then the machine image that we want to use, which is this one here. So we're going to just call this where'd that go? Over here. They're just using names like this. So let's do, we'll call it single. What I'm thinking here is we can do single and scaling, right? So that's our map, and then we're going to refer to it here. Get rid of a couple of these. I never want to think about IAM again. We want to look here and find EC2 instances. Not ECS, EC2, there we go. And we're gonna do this as bare bones as we can. So there's probably some properties that you would normally use that will, if they're not required, we'll just ignore them for the time being and get this up and running. Okay, so we'll just look for a lot of no's. Remember, block device map is how we could add in like another volume to this. We're gonna just rely on what's in that machine image, so we won't worry about that. CPU, credits, disable API, EBS optimized. We don't need any of this. Don't need any of this. All right, here's the first thing that we need, because remember that we need to give CodeDeploy access to the EC2 instance. So we're going to say IAM instance profile, and we're going to start using those import functions again. So we'll do just like we've done in the past. Okay, set that up, and we had this somewhere else already. Remember I never remember this. Okay, grab that, and we'll dump that here, like that. We're gonna have to change this to whatever we made that export value. So let's go back. Actually, we can look right here. And I don't think we exported enough here. So we need to get the the instance profile. That's this definition right here. If we look in the documentation, it says the name or the ARN, the ARN of the instance profile. Okay, so let's just go back and have a look at Iam. We just need to look at the export, or sorry, the return values for the instance profile. If we use a ref, it gives us the resource name. If we use a get attribute, it will give us the ARN. I'm going to use the get attribute, so we'll set this up as another export here. Okay, and what did we call it? I forget. Instance profile 0. Okay, and then we give it a name, and we'll just borrow from up here, and we will call this we'll just call it no, let's it's going to be a long name, but that at least we know exactly what we're talking about later on. I'm not going to check that in for now because it's not even close to being done, and we'll push. Go back over here to CloudFormation. We should see it in here. And this, remember, we did this last week too. You'll have a change set, but the change set will look empty. And that's because you're only adding an output. So there's really no changes happening to the resources. We know what this is, so I'm just going to execute it. And it really should happen really quick. Okay, there's our update cleanup. We're done. And now if we go to outputs, there's the key, there's the export name. So we're going to just grab that, and we can go back to our Ec2 profile and dump that there. Okay, so we're taking the ARN and we're associating the instance profile to this new Ec2 instance through its ARN. Let's go back up to Ec2. Find instance in here again. There we go. Okay, so that got us all the way down here. Here's image ID. Let's go have a look at image ID. So this is where we refer to the AMI. Okay, so we're going to say image ID. Instead of hard coding this, we're going to do find in map. And again, I need to look this up because I can never remember the syntax of it. Okay, so the name of the map, that's our logical name. That is demo map. Top level, second level key. Top level key is the region and this. So remember that we don't want to hard code this stuff. So we're going to use the pseudo parameter, and we're going to use region. I think it's just region. I'm having problems remembering these things tonight. And then we want to use the second level, and in this case it's just single, right? Because remember, we're going to have later on, we're going to set up something like, we'll do this, right? Maybe we have a different AMI for scaling just to demonstrate it. So we'll leave it like that. That should do the trick. What else do we have? What's the shutdown procedures? The instance type. We do need the instance type, and we're going to ref this back to an instance type parameter. And we'll create that up here. We're going to use a T3A medium, and we'll also, again, use that allowed values that we've seen before. Right, so we would often put these in our templates to make sure that, you know, somebody doesn't stand this up and just decide they want to put in like a, I don't know, an X, like the giant machines. So we're going to say T3A, actually let's do this, small, T3A medium, T3A large. This isn't really going to matter a whole lot for us because we're going to deploy this programmatically, but if you were in the console, you would see in this case for the instance type, you would get a drop down with, well, it would actually show you the default value, but if you clicked it, it would give you a drop down of these other values. Okay. And it's silly, but I'm just going to check that those are actual real instances. The way our last couple sessions have gone here, it seems like a battle. So let's just randomly select this. Yeah, okay. T3A small, medium, and large. So we have real instances there. Okay, so that's that, and we refer to it here. Here's our instance type. Don't have to worry about IPv6, kernel, key name. So you can see here that we don't need a key name. We're going to leave the key name off. And the reason we're going to leave the key name off is that what we talked about before, I want to use Systems Manager to access this. And you can see here, if you don't specify a key pair, you can't connect to the instance unless you choose an AMI that's configured to allow users another way to log in. I'm using everybody as a guinea pig right now. I've always wanted to try this, but I haven't tried it in one of our accounts. We're using SSM, right? So we don't really need the key to log in as like the privileged user, like Ec2 user or Ubuntu or anything like that. So I'm going to leave it off, and we're just going to see what it does. Launch template we don't need license, don't need monitoring. Normally we would turn this on to get additional monitoring information, but for now we don't need it. Network, placement, private IP, RAM. Security groups we do need, right? You need to provide a security group with this, which means, I think in the interest of keeping this simple, we'll create a security group here. Okay. And let's go have a quick look at what's in a security group. We'll give it a group description. We'll let CloudFormation name it for us. We're not going to worry about egress rules because remember, egress by default allows all traffic, and ingress by default denies all traffic. Neither of these are required. We're going to leave them blank. Again, we're just going to see what happens here, okay? We do have to tag it. Key is owner, same ones we use all the time. Okay, oops, there we go. And we'll add these up here. And like we did an instance type, and I think we do this all the time as well, so most of you will be familiar with this. We'll set the default to development, and then we'll also set up allowed values. Can be development or production. Okay. So we have those set, and we need the VPC ID. And I think we can get away, we'll have to check this, but we're going to try to do this again. We'll say VPC stack. So we'll set that down. Actually, we'll put it right at the bottom so it's sort of alphabetical. Stack type is string, and we'll leave it like that. And we're just going to go over and we're going to see, we're deploying all of this in the development VPC. So I just want to see, I think we did exports from there, but I can't quite recall. So let's go have a look. CloudFormation. There's our development VPC. Oops, outputs. Yeah, this is what we're after. So this is what we're after. We'll just say dash cider. No, sorry. We want this. We want the ID, not the cider range. So we'll just dump that right there. Okay. And then down here, oh, look at this. I totally missed this. Type AWS EC2 instance. It helps if we tell it what we're actually wanting it to create. Okay, and then the properties. And like we always do, depends on, in this case, SG0, because we're going to refer to it in security group IDs, ref SG0. Okay. The reason I'm leaving the ingress empty and just leaving the egress to the default, and now that I think about it, when we create this, let's see what it does. It may actually create, it's been, again, I'm having a hard time remembering these examples. When you create this, I wonder what it's going to put as the default egress rule. Like if you create this through the console, the default will always be, egress will be allow traffic to anywhere. I'm not quite sure what this will do if we just create it through CloudFormation, because I normally put rules in these. Okay, so we'll see what it does. Okay, so that's that. Go back to instance. Oh, click there. So that gets us all the way down to here. We've got dash string. Is it security group IDs? Security group IDs, perfect. We don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about that. We do have to dump it into a subnet. Okay. And this is just a string. Now, you guys probably remember this. There is an intrinsic function that we can do to do this. Select. And what this is doing is just creating, so this is what we want to do right here. So we'll say select, just leave it, whoops, leave it empty for now. And they usually have an example down here about selecting the subnets. This is what I'm after right here. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to look for the first AZ in this region. Now, I don't like the format of this. We can do this all in one line. So I think if we do 0, comma, and then we do get AZs, oops, and then do AWS region, like that. I can never quite remember what the structure of this is. Actually, can we find that in the VPC template? I can't recall. Let's have a look. Template. We normally assign the subnets the same way, like select the first availability zone, select the second availability zone. So it should be here. Ah, here. Okay, that's better. This is the part that messes me up. So if we do this, select the first value in this array, and this is just a shorthand way to say, again, get the availability zones in the region where we're deploying this template. What's nice about doing this type of stuff and using pseudo parameters like this is that, we could deploy these in other regions or other accounts if we wanted, forgetting about that particular thing because that needs to be there as well. But you get the idea with the importance of these. We'll go back over to here. Tags, tenancy, user data, volume. So really all we need is tags, and we'll just borrow from up here. Okay. Now, if you recall, we set up a tag set or a tag group for our deployment configuration. So I need to add those tags, otherwise this won't act as a target. Okay, so we need to find that, and we can do that by going back over here, averting all eye contact with CodeCommit for the time being, and go back to CodeDeploy. And we can find that information in our configuration. Environment is development, so we're going to set that one already, and then we need a project key with a value of demo project. So we'll do the same thing just to keep this kind of similar. Project type is string. The default is demo. I don't need that. Demo project. And then down here, we just add that as a key value. Man. Okay. All right. create the security group, use the security group during the creation of the EC2 instance. We're assigning the instance profile with the role that we need for CodeDeploy. We're hopefully using our image ID from the map that we created here. Instance type is a ref to a value. There's the security group. Dynamic assignment to the subnet. Let's just have one more look at this and see if we've missed anything. I don't think so. Okay. Oh, hold on. We didn't put this in our deployment script. So we got to add it here. Okay, so that's EC2. And then down here, we'll just borrow from one of these. Now we need that, but we also need VPC stack, and I'm pretty sure that's set up the same way. We'll just check, okay? Yeah, VPC dash development. So there's our stack name. Let's change this. We need VPC stack equals VPC stack. That's our standard stuff there. Let's have a look in EC2, make sure we've got everything set. Owner has a default, owner email has a default, environment has a default, project has a default. We've set that, default, we set that. Looks pretty good. Now the other thing that I always forget is you have to add this stage up here. And let's actually deploy this at the beginning, okay? Because we kind of need EC2 to be here before we do CodeDeploy. I know we did it a little backwards tonight, but that's again just because of the way that we had those templates built in the first place. Okay, so let's try this and see what it does. Kevin, Payman, since both of you hang around here most often, what do you think is going to be the outcome of our CI/CD script? I won't click on it to look yet, but what do you think is going to happen based on past experience of watching the stream? I'm not surprised. Okay, that's actually a little better than I was expecting. At least in this case, it wasn't a spelling mistake at this point. I missed a parameter in our find in map. So let's go back and have a look at that again. Map name, top level key, second level key. Payman. Oh, Kevin, I didn't see yours. There'll be no typos and it'll work flawlessly. Thank you for the confidence. I'm much less confident. 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to flip over in case this is a customer template. So back to the odd just chatting screen for a second. Give me 1 sec to check this. I wonder if it doesn't like... Oh, here. I do this every time. You'd think by now. Okay, there's our first level. This is a different one. We called it region AMI map in the other example. We'll put a space there just because. See, I'm using sub. It doesn't like sub in here. I always forget that. You got to go ref, and then you got to change this to like that. Okay, and I'm sure in the documentation somewhere it says what I'm doing there, like why you can't use a sub command within the find in map function. You'd have to have a look and see, but I always forget. Okay, so let's try this again. Testing. Let me just close up that other file. Hey, look at that. There will be no typos and it will run flawlessly. I think you're right, Kevin. I don't consider a messed up intrinsic function to really be a typo, right? I'm going with that. At least it wasn't a spelling mistake. Go here. There's our stack. Create a security group associated to the instance. Pretty basic. Let's see if we can get this one on the first shot. Nope. Okay. The subnet. Oh, I referred to the wrong thing. That is a typo. Let's get this done here. So instance ID, the subnet ID, central CA central 1 does not exist. Is that the first error? Okay, so let's go have a look. That's a bit of an odd one actually. So it's not liking what we did here. Oh, sorry folks. I'm getting confused on how I'm doing this. Remember that the subnet ID in the EC2 instance setup has to be a subnet ID for the VPC that you're deploying in. In this case, I'm just saying, hey, use this first AZ. That's actually not the way we want to do it. We want the unique identifier for the subnet that's deployed here. Okay. We still want VPC stack. We're going to go over and we're going to have a look here at the export names in VPC stack. Okay, let's roll back. We can just delete this one. And all we'll do is we'll find the VPC template again. There it is. I'm looking right at it. Outputs. And we want to put this in a private subnet. So all I need is this. Okay. I was thinking VPC as we were building the EC2 instance, so we need to change this out, okay? So this will pass the ID of private subnet 0 into here, which makes sense. That is a typo. And I just want to make sure the stack is cleaned up before we try to deploy. Okay, that's good. Push. Give this a second. Okay, there's our EC2 deploy again, refresh. One of the things I find with this, and I don't know if it's true or not, but usually if you're deploying an EC2 instance in CloudFormation, if it's going to fail, it fails almost immediately. You saw that the last time. Like as soon as it tries to create that resource, if you have a typo, it'll normally fail right away. So this is actually a good sign. And the other thing that I usually see is if we go over to the EC2 console, oh, not quite yet. I wonder what this is. Nothing, and it's in the demo account, which means, let's have a quick look at this. Launch time, February 16th. That's probably a leftover. You know what that is? That's probably the machine that we use to create the AMI. So I'm going to leave that for now, just in case we need it. All right, well, it's not failing, which is usually you'll see it pop into the console here pretty quickly. All right, we'll give it a minute here. It's like watching paint dry. The way my night's been going, now that I made a declaration that if an EC2 instance doesn't fail immediately in CloudFormation in the deployment, that you're usually okay, it'll probably fail now. Yeah, I'm less confident this is gonna work. Let's check the AMI ID 097. Okay, no error there. It's a pretty basic template. Oh, let's see what happens. Grass is growing, paint is drying, you got it. Oh, that's the stopped one. It took my filter away. State running. Interesting. I'm starting, I know we'll get through this, but I'm starting to regret, Payman, that I took your advice on a pipeline demo. This has been one of the hardest ones we've done so far. All the other ones kind of at least have a little bit of flow to them. We work through some problems, and we get it working. This one has been, let's call it challenging. Yeah, I don't know about this one. Usually what happens here is you see create in progress, you see the instance in I almost said the instance in payment, the instance in pending, and then it'll come to life. It's the curse of the CI/CD pipeline. Yeah, something's not right here. We've missed something in that CloudFormation template. So let's go back and have another look. What we could have possibly missed here. Well, let's go through and look at the required versus non-required. No. Well, you would think if it was a required parameter, it would fail right away. So that to me means probably something. You know what I bet you it is? I bet you it's going to fail on this. Let's go here. Usually it's like I have two. I'm going to speculate on two things. Either I've passed the wrong information in for the IAM instance profile, or I have a mismatch in the security group. So the security group, for whatever reason, maybe it ended up in the wrong VPC, and now we have an instance in VPC 1 that's trying to be associated to a security group in VPC 2. And a lot of times when you start doing those mismatches, you'll find essentially what's happening here is it's waiting for a timeout period. It's trying to do something, and this will fail at that timeout period. That's what I'm thinking. So let's have a look. If we go back to our IAM development, we look at outputs. Here's the ARN for the instance profile. I don't think it likes the fact that we're passing the whole thing. I almost think that we should have just passed this, but we're gonna let it time out. Okay. The other thing that we can check is we can't really check here because the resources, oh, it does exist. Let's have a look at this before it gets blown up. What I'm looking for here is which VPC it belongs to. There's its VPC. If we select that, this should be the development VPC that we're working in. Oh. VPC development demo AD. I think we have a mismatch here somewhere. I think this is a leftover VPC from another demo we did. Although I thought I cleaned everything up. It's the only VPC. We're kind of stuck until this fails. I'll tell you what, we're in what? I'm looking for the time here. We're in an hour and a half. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, grab a coffee, you know, don't go outside if it's cold where you are, but grab a coffee, come on back in about 5. I'm going to do the same, grab a drink, and we'll turn some tunes on here. And we'll be back in 5, and hopefully by then, this thing has decided what it wants to do, and it's timed out, okay? So we'll be back in 5. All right, folks, back. Get rid of the tunes. And look at that. Yeah, we're stuck here. Something isn't right. Obviously. Let's look at parameters, VPC development, Iam development. Those should fail immediately if we had a typo there. T3A mediums. None of this looks weird. The only thing I can think of is right here. Let's look this up in the Ec2 documentation again. Close down a couple of these. We got too many windows open here. The name or Amazon resource name of the instance profile. And we passed in the ARN. The only thing I can think is that's where it's getting hung up. The rest of this I don't think is wrong. VPC ID. So I don't think there's a mismatch here because we're referring to the same stack in both of these. So it's not like we're creating the security group in one VPC and then trying to stand up the EC2 instance in another one. I think the only thing that I can come up with is this right here. Still not running. And this must be still in no man's land. Can we delete this? Oh, look at that. Oh, okay, that's just saying canceled. Let's see if it rolls back. And while it's rolling back, we're going to go over here and we're going to change this just to a ref. Okay, so that should give us the name. And we're going to take that out like that. Okay, and we'll just see if there's any difference here. We're going to do it in, actually no, we'll do it all in one shot. Let's take off the ARN. I got to make sure that this delete finishes. Okay, so that's gone. Okay. It's the only thing I can think of. If it's not that, it's just the curse of the code pipeline. We are stuck. All right, let's see what this is doing. Ec2 deploy. You know, I know we're okay now because we've got Ec2 deploying, but when you really think about it, we need Iam deployed before Ec2 if we're building this out from scratch. So actually, let's just change that, right? You can see that we're actually deploying Iam with CodeCommit. So let's change this. We're going to do this. Deploy Iam first, then our Ec2 instances. CodeCommit really could go anytime because I don't think, if I recall, it relies on anything, but we'll leave it where it is, and then we can do deploy at the end. Okay. If we jump back over here and we go to Iam again, we should have that empty change set, right? Because we're changing the output, and we'll let that run. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check what gets pushed to the output. Okay, there we go. Instance profile 0 is now the name, okay, rather than the ARN. And we're just going to try that and see what it does. Instance profiles here. Interesting, 2 change sets. Oh yeah, we pushed it twice, didn't we? Okay. And we'll execute this one. Okay, so there's our create in progress. See the difference? It was that profile. See how it starts immediately? That's what I was expecting last time. We can't connect to this because it's not done yet, but you see how kind of the moment, if it doesn't fail in CloudFormation, as soon as it goes to the EC2 instance, you'll see it coming to life. Okay. And you can see down here, there's the role that we've defined earlier on. And the role, remember, is associated to the EC2 instance through its instance profile. Okay. There's our EC2 instance that we created. All good. It'll also be interesting if we highlight this and say connect. This is a agent installed. We'll give it a little longer. It might just not be coming to life yet. So that's good. Okay, so that template's, stack is deployed. No metric data yet. There we go. Okay, so now we can get into this machine through Session Manager. And this verifies, again, a couple things. We don't really care about the security group because we don't, in our example here at this point, we don't really need any inbound traffic allowed. We'll have a look at the security group in a second because we also want to check the egress and see what's available there. We also don't need any key pair associated with this because we are getting access to this through Session Manager. Okay. I always forget if it's HTTP. So we've got our web server running. Remember we did that last week. We created the EC2 instance, installed Apache, configured Apache, got everything up and running and ready to go. So if we just close this, let's have a look at, if we say resources, we can jump, actually go here. Inbound is empty, outbound has the default. Okay, so it's going to do, it acts the same way. All right. Now, at this point, we have a EC2 instance as a target for our deployment config. We've got our deployment group created, our application, all of that is ready to go. I think, let's jump back into this EC2 instance for a second. I just want to check the configuration of Apache. I can't remember where we told it to, I think we just left the defaults because we didn't add any drives. So it's just var www, I think. Yeah, there's the HTML directory and we have nothing in here. Okay. So that's good. Cancel that, close that. Let's go back over to CodeDeploy. At this point, we need CodeCommit. Okay. There's our deployment group. As long as we've got our tags set up, we should be good. So we really want to trigger the deployment now from CodeCommit. I almost hate to do this, but I'm going to go back here. I'm going to open up a temp container here. And we're going to go back to Sweet Shareholder. Is anybody else like, oh, here we go again at this point? Let's grab this user that we created. And you know what? I did it again. I didn't save these credentials anywhere. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to put the original credentials back. So we're just going to manage this. And I'm going to put a custom password in, and we're not going to ask it to change it because that's what's in the vault. Password cannot be the same as a previous. Oh, got a password policy in here. Makes sense. Okay, give me a sec. I'm going to regenerate it. Okay. Perfect. Checking for spaces again. I really don't know what else to do at this point. What a royal pain in the ass. The thing that's really getting me now is we've even added this user administrator. User. Let's just try again. We're going to go back to this user. Has all the same permissions because it's member of the same group. And we're gonna do the same thing. We are going to manage the credentials here. We'll use a custom password. All right, I've got that in the vault. And it's test-user. Test-user. We'll cut and paste this again just in case. Yeah, I'm really stuck on this one because I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I went back and tried the CodeCommit test user that we had created last week that was doing the same thing, and it worked. I logged in. I wonder if it doesn't like this container for some strange reason. So let's go here. How do we want to do this? I'll just do it this way. Okay. Oh, hang on, folks. Sorry. Same outcome. I was thinking maybe in the Firefox container something was cached or I don't know what at this point. I'm not sure. Sweet. Oh my God. Does anybody see it? Kevin, will you do the honors, please, sir? Drum roll. See this little thing? It's a typo. Oh my. I'm typing sweet shareholder. It's sweet shared holder. Okay. Serenity now, right? That's the kind of thing, the situation we're in here. So let's go back here. And we're going to go here. Sweet shared holder. And we're also going to do something else because now I'm pissed. So we're going to do this. We're going to remove admin access because we shouldn't be doing that in the first place. Whoops, I removed the user from the group instead. Put them back in the group. And we actually have to change the group permissions because these are all assigned here. Detach that. And actually, we'll leave that because the user needs to change their password in theory. In our case, we don't have to. So we've got our back to the way that it was set at the beginning. Okay. Oh, I need my username because it's crazy. All right. And one more time back here. Maybe for these, I should just get rid of the green screen. What do you think? Get rid of the green screen. So when I'm flipping back and forth. Oh. Oh. There we go. Hold on. We may still. Oh my God. Oh, look what I'm doing. Okay, I just need to stop at this point. I'm not grabbing the username. I'm grabbing the group. Holy hell. Okay. You know what I'm doing next. Copy. No space at the end. No space at the beginning. Well, mystery solved. Okay. Here, you know what? It's what's that saying? It's KISS, keep it simple, stupid. I think it is. We're looking at IAM permissions. We're looking at policies, and I started doubting whether I actually knew how to do this because I'm like, no, all you need is the login profile, and that will give you access to the console. Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So what we want to do now is what I thought we would do right at the beginning is set up HTTP access for our CodeCommit repo. Okay. First try. First try. I love it. The initial configuration for CodeCommit, we've done all this already. We've made ourselves a power user. We've talked about sort of the reasons why power user might not be the best thing to do, right? That's a whole other stream. We've got Git installed already. We have to set up our credentials, our Git credentials, okay? And the way that you do that is in here, I'm logged in as this user. Nope, there we go. I'm logged in as this user. I might not actually have enough to do this. Let's see. Generate credentials. Okay, it will do it. Okay? I'm actually just going to cancel this and we're going to delete these. Okay. I just wanted to show you. See all these? Now, we really have taken this to a bit of an extreme. Normally, you would want this type of stuff to be available. These were, remember we saw in the IAM actions when we were going down the wrong path, trying to figure out why we couldn't log in. There were a bunch of list operations. A lot of those list operations would fix this. If we go back here, AWS IAM actions, and we go back here, that's IAM Access Analyzer. Oh, sorry, it's right below it. And remember, you can scroll down here and you can find all the actions. And we just saw a whole series of list commands. Okay. A lot of these you might actually want. Okay. Because list, remember, you can't update, you can't delete, it's just list. Okay. We'll maybe come back to this and just add it to see how much it changes the console so that you don't see all of this type of stuff. But what we want to do is we want to do this. Okay? We can generate our own credentials, and like we've seen before, you get a single opportunity to look at these. I'm going to flip back to the password vault again, so just bear with me a second so that I can record these, and hopefully they will be right going forward. So save that. Okay, and then we'll save the password. All right. You can also download these just like IAM credentials, but I'm just putting them right into the password vault. And just like IAM credentials, you can see here, you only have a single opportunity to do this. Once I do that, you're not going to see all that information again, but now I have them here. Okay. If we go back to the docs, we've created our Git credentials. That's great. Okay. You cannot choose your own username or password, right? That just generated for us, so we're good there. Copy the username and password. This is your only chance, like we said. And now we can go ahead and attempt, fingers crossed, to connect to the CodeCommit repository, and we'll just clone the repo. Okay. So let's try that. Just bear with me 1 second again, folks. Wanted to make sure I was in the right directory. Okay, so we're just going to run the Git Clone command. You can see it right here. Okay, so Git Clone HTTPS, and we can get this. If we jump back over here and we go to CodeCommit, there's our repo, and you can actually get the whole thing right from here. Now, I'm not quite sure what that's going to copy. So let's do this first. Just the HTTP address. All right. So git clone HTTP. Oh, actually, we can do that. And then the path on our local machine. So we'll just call this demo repo. First time you do this, this is where it's going to ask you for your username and password. Okay. I need to figure out a better way to do this. I find it annoying to keep switching back and forth on everybody. Username, password, get rid of the vault screen and see what this does. I think I got everything copied here. You appear to have cloned an empty repository. That's fine. Okay. I think now we're set up, if I recall the clone command. If it doesn't work, we'll push something into it and run the clone command again. But we've got now, at least it didn't air out. We've got access to this repo. Okay. Actually, we could do this. We'll do this. Do we care about a commit message for this? No. All right, there we go. Okay, so if we go repo, we've got our README file. So if I go back here, oh, okay, so now I should be able to do git pull, maybe? I don't know if that screwed up or not. Let's do it again. I think we just called it demo repo. Oh, I want to go here. RM demo repo. These are all the demos that we've been doing over the weeks. There we go. All right, so now if we pull this back up, we can say file, open, and here, there's demo repo. We'll open this up in a new window. There we go. Okay. So pulled it down, and that is good. One of the things with CodeDeploy is CodeDeploy needs a file. And essentially the way that I think about it is it's an instruction file. Okay. CodeDeploy has a bunch of life cycle events. And what it's going to do is it's going to run instructions that you provide in what's called the app spec file during the deployment of your code. Okay, so if we just do AWS CodeDeploy documentation. All right, and you can see right here app spec files. Okay, we're just doing an Ec2 deployment. I want to see if they just give us a sample that we can doctor. For more information, hooks. So these are all the lifecycle hooks you can see here. You know, application stop, run this script, download bundle, run this script. Okay, not all of these hooks you have control over. There's some that you can't add scripts to. I think there's about 5 of them that you can. Okay, I really just want an example that we can use for a snippet. Oh, here we go. This is a good slide here, or a good look at it here. You can see kind of how all this works. Okay, the order. Oh, here's a file example. This is what we're after. That's an ECS deployment. We want an EC2 deployment. Perfect. We're going to copy this. And you know, I can't remember what it's called. Hold on. I think it's just appspec YAML. That would make sense, right? It's YAML or JSON formatted. Yeah, appspec YAML. There we go. So we're on the right path. add that. Okay, so the app spec file, think of it as nothing more than a set of instructions that the CodeDeploy agent running on your target, in our case the target is an EC2 instance, okay, this is the instruction sheet that it will follow, okay, when the deploy is happening. The app spec file must be in the root of, in this case, our CodeCommit repo, or if you had some other process, you know, we might build this out a little more and talk about code build and things like that. You know, you would want that app spec file in the root of the application archive, the deployment archive that's going to go down to your EC2 instance in our example. This is always version 0, I think. Your OS is either Windows or Linux. In our case, it's Linux. You've got files set up here. This is what we're going to do today, and we're not actually going to even worry about any hooks for the time being. So what I was thinking we could do is we could just say, okay, and we know already that it's var www.html. The source, the destination. So in theory, what we could do is we can go in like this. Let's do that. It doesn't really matter what's in here. Okay. Good. There's our insane, complex index file. Okay. App spec file, index file. In theory, this should be everything that we need. Now we can commit this, but it's not going to do anything because right now we don't have any way to say, hey, if we get a commit, or yeah, I guess if we get a commit in the repo, fire off the deployment. Okay, so that's the next thing that we want to look at. So this is, we can check this in. This works, no problem. And let's just do that to make sure, I guess, that it actually does work. Yeah, asking us for credentials again, because when I ran that first run through, it was in the CLI, not in my PyCharm. So 1 second. Just grab the username and password again. Okay, and just like we did in the CLI, this should be fine. Okay, no errors, pushed. If we jump back over here and go here. Oh, wrong place, sorry. CodeCommit is what we want. Where's CodeCommit? There we go. Okay, so we've got those new files there. No deployment at this point, but we've got our app spec and our index file. Okay, perfect. And I'm actually going to do this, this, this for now. Okay. Now there was, if you recall from last week, we saw a really simple demo, at least a starting of a pipeline is when somebody checks something into CodeCommit, do a deployment. So I think what we're going to do, at least for tonight, is see if we can get that working. What are we in here about? We're kind of, usually I do about the 2-hour thing, so we're a little over that, but we had a bit of a rough start like last week. So let's see if we can figure out AWS code deploy with CodeCommit. Yeah, here's that example that we actually started looking at. Step 1 is to create our repo. We've got that. Step 2 is to add some sample code to that repo. That's what we've just done, right? There's the app spec file. They're basically doing the same thing that we're talking about, index.html. They do have some, oh, you know what? We could do a stop and start just to demo it. Okay, we'll maybe come back to that. Showing you how to do your check-ins. Create the instance. We've got the deploy agent on it already, the CodeDeploy agent. We did that last week. Okay, remember we built that into our machine image. Remember the difference on how we did this is they are bootstrapping the EC2 instance when it comes to life by using a user data script, right? Installing Ruby, installing CLI. We did all this on an EC2 instance manually, stopped that instance and created a machine image, and all of this should exist already for us. Okay, so bootstrapping versus kind of baking it into the machine image. This is just talking again about some more of the setup of the EC2 instance, which we've already got. We created the application. We did that through CloudFormation last week, right? We created the deployment group, okay? So basically the target. And now we need to create our first pipeline in CodePipeline. I think what we're gonna do tonight, instead of codifying this, why don't we just create this in the console, fingers crossed, see what happens. Okay, and we'll end the night there. And then what we'll do is we'll come back next week and we'll actually build this out in code. All right. So go over here, go to pipeline, and we're going to create our first pipeline. Super simple via console. All right. Create the service role. So like we saw before with CodeDeploy, CodePipeline needs its own service role. And if you remember, we talked about these service roles, I think last week, but we've talked about them a couple times. The way that I think about a service role is it's a role that's created on your behalf by Amazon, okay, by AWS, and it allows one service to talk to one or more other services. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about Amazon creating these on your behalf, because if you mess these up, then the service couldn't do what it wants. We're going to use, or we're going to let CodePipeline create this for us right here. You can also create your own service role if you want. Okay. A lot of the services will basically do this for you though. When we do this as code, we'll end up creating this by hand. Okay. Allow CodePipeline to create it. Do we care about here? No, we'll leave the defaults. We'll talk about the keys next week, and we'll change this next week so that we're using a customer managed key, a CMK. One of the things that we normally do when we're building these out for customers is we always use a customer managed key. A lot of the customers that we work with, they want to have keys that are stored in KMS and can be leveraged with KMS, the key management service, for other AWS services, but they want their own managed key in KMS. And what's nice about this is it allows you to have a little more control over it. You can set the key policy, like who or what has access to the key, what actions it can perform, but it also lets you rotate the key on a yearly basis. Otherwise, if you've got an AWS managed key, you don't have any control. Okay. So for tonight, just to see if this is going to work, we're going to leave this here. When we come back next week, we'll do it in a different way. Next, service provider or source provider is CodeCommit. There's our demo. Okay, we only have the one branch. We're going to use CloudWatch events as a way to detect changes here. Okay, we're just going to let that one go. We could also use CodePipeline to check for it, but we're going to leave it as CloudWatch events for now. Okay. And then we'll leave again the pipeline defaults for the output artifact. We'll look at all of these in more detail next week. I'm just interested to see sort of on the way that we started tonight, if this will actually work. So we'll say next. We aren't going to do any builds. I think as we kind of build this out over the next couple weeks, we'll look at code build as a way to do this. But for now, we'll just say skip the build stage. Yes, we'll skip it. And then our deployment is CodeDeploy. And this should do the same thing. There's our application name, and there's our deployment group. Okay. Like a lot of the services, gives us the review, and it says create. All right. And you'll see the first thing it does, even though we haven't made a commit or anything like that, it'll just grab whatever in CodeCommit and start a deployment for us. Okay. We'll get into transitions. I think we can do some fancy stuff as we build this out in code. But for now, we'll just see if this works. Okay, so what it's done is it's gone and it's grabbed the commit in CodeCommit, bundled it up. You can see right here, right? There's the commit message that we made, and now it's actually doing the deployment. If we click on details, deployment failed. I'm not surprised. Too few healthy instances available. What we can do is we can drill down into this and see where it failed. Okay, download bundle, unknown error. Those ones are always helpful. I would suspect at this point, it probably doesn't have enough access. It's usually a permissions error. That's a shame. I was really hoping that we would get lucky here and this would work. Yeah, there we go. Access denied. Okay, I don't know why it says unknown error and then access denied. That's a little weird. That probably means that the instance profile that we've assigned to the EC2 instance that we just tried to do that deployment to. Let's go over here and have a look. Yeah, that's what we want. So somewhere in our guide, when you think about this, what we're saying is, remember SSM managed instance cores for session manager, how we were accessing it. And then this is the profile that we created. And all we have access to right now is an S3 get and an S3 list command operation, right? A bunch of them against a very specific bucket. I would suspect that the problem is if we go back to CodeDeploy and we look at that failed deployment, oh, that's weird. It's changed regions on us for some reason. Let's do that. Okay, if we drill down in here, see this? This is the S3 bucket that's now being used for that bundled up artifact that it's trying to deploy. We don't have access to this. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. Okay. So this is the bucket that it was created for us by CodePipeline. Okay. And I really just wanted to go here, right? And you just have the prefix or the folder structure in here. If we drill down, CodePipeline doesn't have bucket version. Okay, that's fine. These are all just the settings here for this source artifact. Okay. I think really what we have here is just not being able to access this bucket. I think though what we're going to do is wait till next week to get this figured out. So that's kind of the end here. Again, thanks for the patience, folks, on this one. A little bit of a struggle here to get this to work, and we got hung up again on a spelling mistake. I'm going to say I can't believe it, but actually I can, kind of the way a lot of these streams go with spelling errors. But anyways, we made some progress. Solved a quite mysterious problem. When you drop a D on your URL for the IAM console, it usually doesn't work the way you would expect. I wonder if somewhere out there somebody actually happens to use the same what do they call it? Alias, console alias? Like, does somebody else have Sweet Shareholder? You know, out of the millions of customers, somebody's going to log in and they're going to get a whole bunch of alerts in their console that says somebody's trying to log in with a crazy name, and they're just going to see a bunch of login errors. That's kind of funny. But anyways, as always, thanks folks for hanging out. It looks like we had a pretty good crew again tonight, so I appreciate the newcomers. Always nice to see a few extra people in the channel. Thanks very much, and we'll see everybody for CloudFormation on Thursday, but we'll be back on, or sorry, CloudFormation next Tuesday, but we'll be back on Thursday playing, probably playing Vintage Story again. Okay? Take care, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in a couple days.